Hello, everybody. Carpenter Company and SleepBetter.org invite you and welcome you to the live stream of Pillow in Space, the first of its kind partnership with JP Aerosmith, America's other space program. I'm Paul Freifeld, broadcasting from Mission Control here in New York at the showroom of Carpenter Company, the world's largest manufacturer of comfort cushioning products and sponsor of today's coverage of the first ever launch of pillows into at least near space. Now, we are having a lot of fun here at Mission Control in Midtown Manhattan, but the real action is out in the high desert in Nevada. And we have our team out there as well. Joining me now live in the desert is Sleep.org's superstar himself, Steve Cummings, who will have a special guest.
Good morning, Paul. Good morning, everyone. This is Steve Cummings reporting from the high Nevada desert for SleepBetter.org and Carpenter Company. Lots of activity behind me as JP Aerospace's team is busily getting the vehicles up into space. And I have launch director and founder and president of JP Aerospace, John Powell, next to me. He's going to be answering questions throughout our broadcast today from anyone out there that wants questions answered. Please go ahead and send those questions to space@sleepbetter.org. We'll get as many of those questions answered during the course of this broadcast. Well, we welcome to the broadcast, we want to welcome all those space enthusiasts, the folks who are amateur scientists, and the hundreds and hundreds of students across this country who have submitted and turned in pong sets that'll be going up on these vehicles up into near space, up into the stratosphere, actually. So welcome, and we appreciate you coming. There's about 2,000 of those pong sets on these vehicles today. And for anybody else out there, John, who doesn't know anything about JP Aerospace and about the pong sets, could you just let us know what it's all about?
Well, JP Aerospace is a private space program, and we've been around for 37 years now, and we've flown getting close to 200 missions. We fly rockets, we fly airships, we fly balloons, and one of the things we do, in fact it's the most fun thing we do, is pong sats. It stands for ping pong ball satellite. And so people from everywhere, students from all over the country and all over the world, if they want to ride with us, every time we fly, we carry hundreds of these. What they do is they take a ping pong ball, cut it in half, put their experiment inside, and tape it and send it to us. And we carry it up and send it back. Could be something really simple like a marshmallow that puffs up in the vacuum of space and freeze dries. This is a great experiment. Or we've had bunches with GPSs, satellites, and video cameras and sensors and a whole satellite. Everything in between.
Huh, great. And so what do you think is in this pong set?
This one, I think there's plant seeds in this one.
Okay, great.
What they'll do, it'll get exposed to cosmic rays in the cold, and then they'll grow it.
I see.
And you'll get splits in the leaves and different radiation damage on the plant.
Well, great. Thanks so much for that information. We want to let everyone know that all this activity and the pong sets were completely free of charge for everybody across the country that sent them in because of the generous support of Carpenter Company and SleepBetter.org, reminding all the students, especially out there, to get as much sleep as possible to do well in school. And there's plenty of tips and information on how to do that on SleepBetter.org, as well as a great article by our new expert, Terry Krall, who wrote a story about sleeping and astronauts. So check that out on SleepBetter.org. I think we're about, let's say we're about 5 minutes away.
We're about 5 minutes from
PT 5 minutes, and looks like conditions are pretty perfect out here. What are we looking at?
Yeah, we had about 3 knots of wind, which is just ideal. We have a beautiful blue sky. We had some rain last night we were setting up, and some big clouds were a little worried,
right.
But some high winds blew all those off, so that was good. So I think we're good.
Yeah, great. Okay, it's a little chilly out here, I can tell you that. It's fall coming into the high Nevada desert, so it was especially cold last night, about 41 degrees. But just give a programming note. Earlier today, about 10 minutes or 5 minutes till 8, we sent up Hero 89 with our 5 pillows, and that vehicle, would you say, is probably whereabouts at this point?
Right now it's about 75,000 feet, so it's made it into the stratosphere and it's still going.
And also, because we had a front move through here, just so everyone knows, it hit the jet stream and it took it really probably about a record away from the takeoff site in JP Aerospace history. So it actually went about 40 miles. We think it's going to come back in, but the point there is that our satellite footage is a little spotty. So we're going to be cutting back and forth between the launch of the vehicle that we're about to send up and our Hero vehicle with our pillows. We are going to have 2 pillows on the vehicle that's going up now.
Yep.
And it should be a great day for some space flight.
Like these are the worker pillows that people have seen during the preparations.
That's right. Okay, well, we're good out here in the desert. We're going to send it back to you in New York. Thanks so much for coming and joining with us today as Carpenter Company and SleepBetter.org sends up pillows in space. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Steve, and I just want to thank Steve and John. And if you happen to be joining us late, Carpenter Company and SleepBetter.org will welcome you, as we do, to this live satellite broadcast of Pillow in Space, the first of its kind partnership with J.P. Aerosmith, America's other space program. And I am Paul Freifeld, broadcasting from Mission Control here in the showroom in New York City of Carpenter Company, the world's largest manufacturer of comfort cushioning and products, and the sponsor of today's first ever launch of pillows into near space. We're just a few moments away from our exciting launch, which we'll go back to the desert for. Just wanted to point out that there are people throughout the country watching us on SleepBetter.org. Just to give you a couple of those, Marley Shopik in Festus, Missouri, and the Twin City Achievers 4-H Club has 20 participants watching. And we also have Debbie Tucker and her family who have the Pong Sats, which John explained to us very recently. They're watching the flight from Aurora, Colorado. So hello to the Tuckers. And finally, a big hello to Oakland, California, and 7th and 8th grade science teacher Karen Ginsberg's watch party with her 40 participants from Park Day School. So as you can tell, people are interested in space, and especially pillows in space. We're coming down the home stretch before we launch this very exciting liftoff. And I think we can go back to Steve. And Steve, how close are we? Oh, perhaps not. So let me go over a few more of the folks that are watching out there. In Port Lucie, Florida, we have a group that's watching. Deborah Barrington has coordinated the more than 300 St. Lucie West K through 8 school Pong Sharks, or Sats, and they tell me to say, go Sharks. I think we do have Steve back in the desert. Steve, over to you.
Thanks so much, Paul. Well, yeah, big shout out to all those fabulous watch parties across the country. We are, the vehicle is getting its final prep now. We're probably going to be about PT plus 2 minutes before it goes off. So while we are PT 22 seconds or so now, there'll be a slight delay to get the vehicle over to launch. I see John Powell feverishly getting his crew together, and we'll get this vehicle up into the stratosphere. I also want to point out we have a team of probably about, I would say there's about 18 JP Aerospace folks out here working diligently for the SleepBetter.org and Carpenter Company launch. And they're split up into numerous teams. Some of the teams are here to place the pillow. Others are going to be holding on to the vehicle as it goes up. And then others still are working the tracking beacons and just making sure this all goes well. So we're about 2 minutes out. I see that they're lifting the vehicle now. I'm moving it over here. If I could throw it back to you, and I'll get John over here and we can ask a few more questions.
Thank you very much, Steve. And this is, of course, the exciting element of the program as we get closer and closer to our launch. And as Steve had mentioned earlier, this is the second of 2 launches, but we wanted you to get the opportunity to see an actual launch live on SleepBetter.org. So that's why we have 2 today, and you'll also get a chance to see some of those exciting pillows in space. And as we will point out at some point, Steve, there was a way that people were able to enter a contest and get their pillow, their actual pillow, into space.
Earlier this summer, SleepBetter.org on its Facebook page invited our nearly 350,000 fans to do various things related to sleep. They actually, one round of pillow adoptions, were asked to send in pictures of their disgusting old pillows, and we had plenty of those. And over the course of the summer, we created 630 or so, 640 new pillow parents who adopted these great little pillow toys and took pictures of them across the country on their vacations, playing around the pool, going to the grocery store. We have a picture with an Iron Chef and the pillow. Somebody went to a famous amusement park that's located in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
And we have just some tremendous shots across the country. And then toward the end of the summer, we asked our pillow parents to start the clock and send in a bunch of photos of their pillow, and the top 4 would get a chance to send their pillow in space. And we'll run down those pillows after we go through the launch. But we got a total of nearly 500 postcards from Pillow. You can find those on SleepBetter.org. And those 4 winning pillows are strapped to a vehicle. We call it Hero 89. It's up in the stratosphere. And one more pillow actually wrote an essay on what the importance of sleep was for our budding scientists and students. And that's she turned in a fantastic essay, and her pillow is ready to go. So
and
John,
that pillow should be about 85,000 feet right now.
85,000
right
feet. My goodness. Okay. So tell me what's going on back here.
Okay, they're going through the final checklist,
Mm-hmm.
making sure the vehicle is on, supported. The last few things are making sure we didn't leave anything on the top. They're going to be clearing the sky for traffic.
Right.
And then they clip the rigging, the string, onto the balloon to make sure the separation systems, essentially going through all those last steps to go ahead and be ready to fly.
Great, great. So how far out do you think we are?
They're about a minute away.
Okay, very good. You heard that first. We're about a minute away out here in the high Nevada desert for the launch of the very first Pillow in Space vehicle.
9:02.
So tell me what's underneath this tarp right here.
Oh, underneath this, it looks like a big blue slug in the desert.
Yeah.
But what it really is, there's a big weather balloon under there. And instead of just filling it and holding on to it, we inflate it in this giant bag. So if the wind comes up, it doesn't blow the pillow away. So we can launch in really fast winds or any conditions at all and not have to worry about it.
Right.
When the moment of launch, the runner pulls a giant Velcro panel off the top, and then the balloon comes flying out, and then away it goes.
Fantastic. And for our middle school science students out there watching, tell me about the gas that's in there.
Oh, we're flying this one on helium today, and there's 535 cubic feet of it.
Okay.
And that'll put a maximum altitude today of 104,000 feet with the vehicles.
104,000 feet. My goodness.
Feet.
Okay.
And this one has about 200 pong sets on board.
Great, great, fantastic. Okay, how's your team doing? How far away are we?
They are ready to go when we are.
Okay, very good.
Okay. No launch, hold.
All right, folks, I think we're about PT 30 seconds. Everybody here out in the high Nevada desert, please join in with the countdown.
Okay. Paul? Excuse me, Paul? Excuse me, Paul? Paul? We're going to do a countdown. Okay. Go on 1. All right. Not on 1, but on 1. Okay.
All right, we're PT. We're 15 seconds from launch. Let's count down with me here, everyone. Everybody out there on SleepBetter.org. Let's go ahead and we have a mission issue. Just give us a second. We're going to delay for a second. We're not seeing the footage on the cameras. So we have one little technical issue. I want to make sure the cameras are working on the launch vehicle. We're going to get that sorted out. Paul.
See if they switched over to this
Okay. Paul. If I could send it back to you, were there any questions that anybody has turned in for John to ask, for me to ask John?
Well, the first question that came in has to do with what it takes to get ready for this, because the people want to know, many of the people wanted to know, this is highly scientific. What kind of preparation work is necessary before indeed you could launch something like this?
Okay, we'll ask them, and I can tell you from the time I've spent out here with the team, just in the short term, one of the things they have to do is they have to get approval and clearance from the various federal agencies in order to send something up into the stratosphere. We could not be doing this today if the skies weren't blue above us. If there's even 50% cloud cover, they don't want these crafts going up into space because you don't want, we want any aircrafts to know that these vehicles are up there. I will say that they also track these vehicles as they go up, and route airplanes elsewhere. The team got out here in the wee hours last night. It was raining and pretty cold to set up the takeoff strips. And then if you can see behind me, there's a whole array of vehicles that they use to do mission control. And they were out here at 4 a.m., pre-light, also in the bitter cold, getting prepared. Now, months before that, JP Aerospace puts the call out to get all the Pong sets in. And so we got involved early on, Carpenter Company and SleepBetter.org, because we just thought it was a fantastic mission to reach out to those people who are interested in space and science, and especially to those students who, as we've mentioned, and you can find on SleepBetter.org, plenty of information on the importance, the critical importance to education and for students to do well in school, to get a full night's sleep. There's plenty of tips and information and recommended products that consumers can use in order to get the best education possible, and also just generally. It's good to go. We're getting the thumbs up. Let's restart the countdown to 30 seconds, and we'll go ahead and launch this vehicle up into near space. Thanks so much. Great. It's exciting here too. You'll see when these go up, they really do just rocket right up into space. Hold on. So we're about PT 20, would you say? The weight limit requirements I know precludes me. I would have to run quite a few miles to be able to get on there. Okay. Let's go ahead and do PT 20 seconds. 15. With checklist, we got thumbs up. Let's go ahead and count down with me, everyone. 10.
9, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Pretty spectacular. So, John, as that's going away from the nap of the Earth, how would you say that launch went?
That went pretty smooth. We're going straight up, climbing, looks like about 900 feet per minute, which is just about right. You never know on the launch. Sometimes when it comes up, the wind can blow it sideways and the guys have to run down the desert, but that was really smooth.
Fantastic. Would you say that, tell me about the jet stream, what's happening with the jet stream today?
Well, there was this unexpected front that came through, and so we had this huge cloud cover and rain last night. And we're actually very happy this morning when these high winds aloft came and blew it all out, so we had a beautiful clear sky. The downside is that it's really howling up there, and it's putting the vehicles quite a bit downrange.
Well, how far away do you think the vehicles might be when they land today?
I think we're going to do 100 miles plus today.
100 miles plus.
We're going to be out in Jeeps for a long time.
So why don't we explain the recovery process for getting these vehicles back? How does that work?
Well, we're tracking them in several different ways. There's GPS on board, so we always know within about that far where it is at all times. There's also a beacon that's continuously going for 2 weeks on board. And when it lands, there's a satellite uplink that it tells us where it landed, and then it emails us its landing location. So we always know right where it is. But in the high Sierra, sometimes you land next to a nice dirt road, and it takes you only 5 or 6 hours to get out there. Sometimes you land on a peak, and then you have to get out the mountain climbing gear and go up and down.
So to be clear, you actually do some mountain climbs. Sometimes you have mountaineering, you got to get rappelling gear or that kind of thing? Or?
Oh, yes. Because we're actually in a fairly remote area of the Sierra. We like to fly where we're not going to land on anyone's head, which means there's nothing out there.
That's great. Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, John. What a great launch. You think it went well?
Oh, it went really great. The Pong sats and the pillows are going to get a great ride on this one. The nice, interesting thing about the jet stream is they're actually going to get a wild ride as they go through it. The one up top is starting to mellow out a little bit, but this one is going to get a real ride.
Okay, great. Well, how far up is the Hero 89 mission?
Right now it's at 98,000 feet and climbing. We're hoping to break 100.
Okay.
But right now in the we'll see what happens mode.
Okay, great. Do we know how we're doing on the image for that? Is that resolved or?
The last time I checked, about 15 minutes ago, it was continuing to get better. We have moments of really great clarity and then a lot of static.
Okay, great. I'll find out from Mission Control how we're doing with that. And thanks so much for your time out here. We appreciate it. Again, this is Steve Cummings standing next to John Powell of JP Aerospace. We're broadcasting from the high Nevada desert. It's actually a place called Buena Vista Valley. JP Aerospace calls this site area trombone. So we're about probably 5 or 6 minutes away from the zenith or the apex of the flight for the first vehicle, and we'll see if we can get you shots of those. In the meantime, I'm going to send it back to Mission Control in New York and Paul Freifeld at Carpenter Company's fantastic showroom right in the heart of Manhattan.
Indeed, it is fantastic, Steve, and I just love it when you talk technical with me, and so did everybody else here. We're taking notes for sure, and I did also want to point out that we are getting a great picture from space, and we're also taking those questions. And one of the questions that came in, and Steve, I think you can answer this. If John is there, you could also probably answer that. And I think we sort of saw the picture of it too, and that is it technically capable to put the pong sats and the pillows on the same launch?
Oh, that's a great question. So the question we're getting in, and again, for everyone out there, if you have any questions for us, please go ahead and email those to space@sleepbetter.org. And the question that came in is it possible on these vehicles to put both pong sets and pillows? I know the answer to that, but why don't you go ahead and tell people what we've got going on there?
Oh, absolutely. On the two vehicles, we have both pong sets and pillows. One, we have 5 pillows on, and those are all the people that sent their pillows everywhere. And then on another vehicle, and that one has maybe 200 pong sets. And then we have one that we have our helper pillows that we had some fun with and put in some scenes.
And that would be launch vehicle 91 that we just saw go up. We'll be switching over, hopefully, to Hero 89 in a few minutes at the top of its flight. And on that vehicle, Hero 89, we have a few pong sats, but not nearly as many as we have on the other vehicles.
Right. There's about 200, though, on there, which is actually not very many, considering all 2,000.
Sure.
And we're going to be launching 3 more today in just a few minutes that have all the rest of the pong sets on them. I just want to say that all the kids are watching pong sets. They're actually going to the same place that the NASA scientists are going to. They're not doing anything different than the professionals doing high altitude balloons in the Arctic. Their pong sets going to the same place and experiencing the exact same thing. So they are real space scientists.
And this is exactly what captured the imagination of Carpenter Company and SleepBetter.org when we were looking to partner with an organization to get the pillows in space. Anything to get students activated in science and technology is a great thing for our country. And so we're really pleased to be partnering with you and for sponsoring this fantastic flight today. So tell me what happens with the pong sats. What happens? Do the students get those?
Oh yeah, after landing, it takes us sometimes 1 to 3 days, depending on where they land, for us to recover it and get it back. So there's some team members that live for the chase, all 4-wheel driving and getting the pong sats back. And then it's the task of sorting them all, because they all have their ID numbers that the students have written on them, so we can all get their individual pong sats back to them. And what the students have done is a lot of them have written what they thought would happen to their pong sat, kind of a hypothesis,
Yep.
and then they get to test it afterwards. So we send them a data sheet back with their pong sats of how high, how cold. It gets about 90 degrees below zero up there. And in vacuum, with all that information on their particular flight, along with a bunch of pictures from their flight, and they also, each student gets a DVD from all the onboard cameras. So they're going to see the pillows, they're going to see their pong sats, and they're going to see the curve of the Earth. But that takes us a couple of weeks to get all that together and in the mail back to them.
That's great. So fantastic. So hopefully pillows will be, all of our pillow toys will be okay in 90 degree below up there.
Yes.
I think they'll make it. We know from monitoring their vitals that they have their heartbeats are the same as when they lift off, which is basically no beats per second.
Yeah,
so
I think the pillows will probably do really well.
Do we think they might compress at all? Or expand while they're up there? Like what happens with the helium balloon? Tell me.
The helium balloon, it starts out, like you saw here, about 10 feet in diameter. And it gets bigger and bigger, and it's actually 60 feet. It's bigger than your house when it's up there.
Why is that?
Because the pressure drops, and there's the same amount of gas inside. So it's like if you go up into the mountains, your bag of potato chips puffs up. It's the exact same thing, just really, really high and really, really puffy. Now things like the pillows, depending on the material in the pillows, the foam will also expand. But on that type of foam, you'll see on the edges, and that's something if they want to open their pillow and look at it, they'll see little pop, the cells will have burst and pop.
Ah, very good. And
so the pillow may be less fluffy after it's traveled into space.
well, a small price to pay, I think, to take a ride up to the stratosphere, I would think.
Oh, yes.
Well, great. Thanks so much. I'm going to send it back to New York. I want to get some information on our pillow knot so I can spread the word, but I'm going to need to step away to get that information out.
And I don't think they have pillows on the International Space Station, so I think these are the first pillows in the stratosphere.
You heard it here. We are drawing the line right now that at Carpenter Company and SleepBetter.org have the very first pillows in the stratosphere right here today. Thanks for watching.
You know, I think we've come upon something new that we can certainly advocate, because certainly those astronauts out at the space station need comfortable pillows, right? Maybe we could find a way for John to work with the astronauts to get them those pillows. I think that would make a lot of sense. And I should also mention that you are indeed watching Pillow in Space on SleepBetter.org, which is a leading source of sleep tips and information, and of course dedicated to helping America sleep better. Now you can find recommended products and get your Z-score and go to SleepBetter.org this month, find the latest sleep information from the Mayo Clinic, follow the Seal to Sleep Better online on Facebook and in stores. So that's some good information, because we all obviously are searching for the best possible sleep, and there's a great resource for that. Now Steve just mentioned something which is really exciting, and that is the fact that some people throughout the country, 5 to be exact, won a contest to get their pillow actually into this launch. So there are people throughout America that have a vested interest and excitement in watching our broadcast on SleepBetter.org. And Steve, if you can, maybe you could go over the names of the pillows, because the pillows themselves have been named, and also the fine contest winners and how they won that contest.
Absolutely, Paul, no problem. Thanks for coming back to Nevada for Pillow in Space, the live broadcast on SleepBetter.org, brought to you by Carpenter Company. And I want to tell you about on Hero 89, the launch vehicle that's very close to its zenith. And I'm not sure if we're getting images of that, but from left to right, if we are, the first pillow is McStuffy O'Fluff-Again, sent in by Jennifer in Wesley Chapel, Florida. We understand she's watching with her family right now. She sent in the most postcards across the Postcards from Pillow program this summer, with a whopping 241. And this isn't 5 or 6 selfies with the pillow in the same shot. We're talking 241 separate, verifiable images of her and the pillow across the country. She also was the leader in the contest of sending in pictures, not surprisingly, when we started the clock on those, sending in 148 pictures during the contest period. McStuffy, it should be noted, has 5 siblings at home, Jennifer's children, ranging in ages from 17 to 1. And the great news there is that family also, Jennifer's family, decided to send up pong sets, so they're participating in the pong set program as well. So again, that's McStuffy O'Fluff-Again, our first pillow knot going left to right on the vehicle. Second one, Pillow Featherbed, is Amanda Burton's in Warwick, Rhode Island. Amanda sent in the second most photos during the contest period with 43 photos. Pilwoa from Veronica in Arlington, Texas. She was third with 31 postcards. And then Philo T. Pillow, or Philo Pillow, is Tracy Murphy's from Syracuse, New York. Tracy has made it in with 28 postcards during the contest period. Pillow actually traveled to New York City and met Iron Chef Michael Simon. That picture's on SleepBetter.org for anyone who's interested. It's a great shot. And of course, not to be outdone, Philo T. Pillow has his own Twitter account and is live tweeting this event. You can find that Twitter handle on SleepBetter.org. And then our last pillow knot today, our only female, we had to separate her from McStuffy O'Fluff-Again. There was some issue with inter-pillow knot fraternization, so we separated them. But Starlight Sweet Dreams a Lot is Mandy Signs from Plymouth, Mass. And Mandy won Pilonaut Starlight by winning the essay question that we posed, and that is, why is sleep important to students and budding scientists of the future? Her winning essay and the two runners-up, who also are hopefully watching today, are on SleepBetter.org. With that, I want to go back to you, Paul. Give me a sense, what are we seeing from our vehicles?
As you know, and I think that John explained, there are 4 cameras on board the vehicles. And through remote control, they're automatically switched every 4 or 5 seconds. So we get various sights, various views, I should say, that are quite exciting of our pillow knots and of space and on the equipment on board. So it is quite dramatic, and the fact that we get different angles and different views is also, quite important for people who are watching on SleepBetter.org to understand that this is real science, this is real space travel, if you will. And I think the way our viewers are fortunate enough to, and we're grateful that they have jumped on the web to take a look at it. I do also have a few more shout outs that I'd like to give today from folks that are watching on SleepBetter.org. Teacher Jessica Everett and the Bell Morris Elementary School in Knoxville, Tennessee are sending up 30 Pong sats today. So congratulations to the good folks at Bell Morris. From Evansville Christian School in Evansville, Indiana, Beth Moore and 5 other participants are watching their Pong sats go into space, so go Eagles. And finally, 6th grade science teacher Susan Bertram of Mitchell Middle School in Rancho Cordova, California, has opened up the school for the students to come in and view today's launch. So we thank everybody, not only those that we shouted out, but everybody on SleepBetter.org that has taken the time to watch this rather historic event, Pillows in Space. Steve, it's a lot of fun, and obviously we think it's a lot of information that will maybe get people that much more excited about science. And I know there have been some testimonials about this program, and if you can hear me, do you have some of the information on the testimonials?
I don't have it yet, but we can cut back to that in a minute. But what I wanted to show you was a reverse angle to see the operation behind us. We have JP Aerospace's mission control. That's where the vehicles are prepped, if you can see that. And then up there we have the various command and control vehicles. And like I said, there's probably, I would say there's about 20 of us out here making sure all these missions go up as best as possible in the conditions that we have. We talked about the real science that's happening. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the Pong sats that I've seen. They range from the one John Powell was showing us earlier, which were, seeds inside a Pong sat, to people who literally fill a ping pong ball with as much micro electronics as possible, with actual satellite transmitters and their own data receiver. It's really quite remarkable. And they pair that information that they get from the Pong sats with information that John Powell and JP Aerospace provides of the distance that it went, the temperature readings that they get, and through all that they can. I'm hearing that Hero 89 has popped. Is that true, Paul? I'll flip back to you. Go ahead and give us a.
Tell us a little bit about what, when something pops, perhaps that would be good information to pass along. Exactly what is that? What does the pop mean?
So as John was mentioning earlier, the balloons, when they get up into the high atmosphere, actually expand to the size of a house. And at some point, the gas inside has to get out of the balloon, and the balloon actually bursts. And at that point, the vehicle's free fall.
Makes a lot of sense, and ultimately that is part of the natural process, the scientific process, correct me if I'm wrong, about the launch, that is part of the plan, and that is, if that doesn't happen, then things don't continue to go smoothly.
Well, it's inevitable. It has to happen.
Exactly.
And that's how we get it down.
So if you could give us sort of an update as to where we stand in the process in terms of where we are in along the spectrum of the length of the launch.
Well, it's my understanding that Hero 89 has reached the top of its flight and has burst, and it's on its way down. And then our second one, it's falling, and the one that we saw the launch of is on its way, probably getting pretty close to the stratosphere and on its way up to near space. But if I can get John over here, we can talk a little bit more about that. So if you give me just a moment, I'll go and try to find him.
We absolutely can. And while we're waiting for John, got him? Oh, I think John has a lot of duties today, so it would make a certain amount of sense that he has to take care of what's important in a certain order. So while we're waiting for that, we do have some testimonials that I mentioned to Steve, and I'm fortunate enough to have some of them. The pillow parents have sent in notes on this program, which we think is pretty important. One parent wrote, "We have all learned a great deal from you all, choosing a pillow and mattress, learning about sleep, students and sleep, that I definitely don't get enough sleep," and the list goes on and on. I'm grateful for the education that you provided and the opportunity to participate here. I think everyone has had fun with this pillow program. So that's awfully nice. And then somebody else who's involved in the program wrote to us that the program has taught me so much. I became a parent with a gross pillow adoption. We ask our Facebook fans to send in pictures of their old gross pillows, by the way. And obviously this person participated. And as soon as I snapped the picture of the gross pillow, I knew I had to throw it away. And I've explored the SleepBetter.org website, learned the importance of getting my Z's, researched, and of course purchased a new pillow that this person loves, and of course followed the travels of the extended pillow family. So you can tell that people have really connected with the program, and of course it all comes down to the single most important thing that Carpenter is about, and that's making sure that everybody has an opportunity to get a good night's sleep. And that's really why we're here today, and we again thank all the good folks at Carpenter for allowing us to broadcast today on SleepBetter.org, both here at our Mission Control, which is the Carpenter showroom in Midtown Manhattan, and also, of course, where Steve and John and the rest of the fine crew is out in the high desert of Nevada, where we launched the 2 different launches. So, Steve, how do we stand right now out there? Were you able to track John down?
I have him right next to me. He was busy taking care of some mission details. I wanted to ask you a couple questions. Where would you say our first vehicle is? How far away is it and then falling? And where is our launch vehicle?
Well, the first vehicle is a little over 65 miles away.
Wow.
So it's actually out that way quite a ways in a mountain range, but we think it's in a very recoverable area, but we won't know for sure because it's still coming down. They fall actually supersonic on the way down and vacuum.
Oh, wow.
And so it's going over 800 miles an hour. So they get the pillows are probably going wee way down. Yeah. And then the parachute deploys when it gets into the lower atmosphere and for a nice gentle touchdown.
Great, great. And we'll have footage of both the top of that flight as well as the landing later on SleepBetter.org later this week. So tell me about the second vehicle that just went up. Where do we think that is by now?
The second vehicle, it's about 25,000 feet right now. It's getting into that really rough turbulence that the first one went into. We're seeing it go up at 2,000 feet a minute, 200 feet a minute, so it's getting a good jiggle through the jet stream. And it's about 25 miles away.
25 miles. So that one did not get pushed quite as far as the first vehicle.
Oh, but it may, because it hasn't quite gotten into where the fast stuff was with the other.
I see. Very good. Okay, well that's great information. Thanks so much, and we appreciate it from Carpenter Company and SleepBetter.org. We really appreciate all the efforts that you put in together.
You guys. You just kind of made this possible for us.
Great, fantastic. Paul, I'm going to send it back to you. The only question I have are, do we have any other questions from space at SleepBetter.org to ask John?
Indeed we do, and I'm so glad that John, despite all his hard work on the launch, has been able to spend some time with us and give us an education as to what he's doing. And I don't know if everybody knows how there is sort of this private effort into space. So that in itself is very exciting. One of the questions that came in through SleepBetter.org had to do with the recovery process, which I know you've touched upon, John and Steve, quite a bit, and that is, how difficult is it? Because you can't be so precise as to where it's going to land. How do these chasers, as you pointed out, how do they go about the process of recovering everything when it comes down to Earth, when it lands?
Sure, absolutely. Sure. Absolutely, yeah. So one of the questions we got through SleepBetter.org was just again to go over how difficult sometimes the process is for recovery. Today sounds like maybe one of the more difficult recovery. And what's the process? How do they find it? Who goes out? What do they have to do?
Yeah,
sometimes
it could be a pretty big challenge. One that we did in the beginning of the year, or in the spring, we had 120-degree temperatures in the desert when we were going out, and we had about a 5-hour hike through the desert at the closest approach we could with a car. And then we spent another 4 hours climbing up this mountain. And it was Kevin and I, one of our recovery team members. And the hard part was then we're in snow. And we're up to over our knees in snow for the next 3 hours, and the wind is blowing about 40. Yet we weren't prepared for snow, and because we just came out of the desert. And then we're freezing to death, and we finally climbed out, got down into the valley, just as it was getting dark, but it was still 100 degrees outside.
But these days, over the earlier days of JP Aerospace, you actually have transmitters and beacons. And go ahead and speak to the camera, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, the trick is we actually know exactly where it is at all times. The trick is getting to it. When we had this big expedition over the mountain in the snow and the heat, we got within a quarter mile of the vehicle, and there was this wall, this cliff face we could not get over. So we planned this other route, came back the next day, and had a nice gentle stroll a half hour into it and picked it up. We didn't realize we came in the wrong way.
So when will you start your recovery missions today?
In about 3 hours from now, the teams will be heading out, and as usually the case, we'll go after the easy ones first. And since we're launching 5 today, we'll probably, how it almost always works, there's 2 or 3 that will just pick up and come back, and that there'll be one team that'll be out there for a couple of days, getting the one that's wedged in a crack on a peak somewhere.
But have no fear, anyone out in SleepBetter.org, they always get their vehicle, so no worries.
Always. We have flown now 14,000 pong sats, and we've only lost 3, and that was in the very early days of the pong sat mission.
Yes, now they use satellite pinging technology and radio frequencies of that sort.
Yes, in fact, the vehicle itself emails us on landing and tells us exactly where it is.
Can you forward that email to me? I would love to see it.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Okay, Paul, back to you. I hope that answers the questions. If you have any others, let me know. I have John next to me before he runs off and does more mission work.
Indeed we do, Steve. And actually, I think it goes to the point about folks tuning in at various times at SleepBetter.org, which we're very grateful for all our wonderful viewers on our website. Somebody asked a question which you may have touched upon a little bit earlier, but it would be good to reiterate.
Sure.
And the question is, how long will the Pong Sats actually be in space? So I guess another way to ask that would be if you could refresh our memory from liftoff to touchdown. Tell us a little bit about the trip that the Pong Sats and, of course, just as importantly, our Pillownots are taking today.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question. Let's go ahead and run through the phases and the amount of time it takes from liftoff to apex in the space, and then boom, balloon popping and crash landing. What's the timeline typically?
Well, if everything goes smooth and even, it climbs at about 1,000 feet a minute, which is about 20 miles an hour. So it takes about 100 minutes to get to 100,000 feet. Now, because of the rain this morning, or last night, some of our launch bags were wet, and one of the balloons were wet, they're carrying the pong sats, so it took off very slowly at 200 feet a minute. And it was crawling really slow, and the other balloon really passed it up, and then as it dried out, it really started zooming. And because the front that it zoomed through with those high winds created a bunch of turbulence, it started climbing at 2,000 feet a minute.
Wow.
And then passed the first balloon on its way. So we'll have pictures of the pillows watching one balloon from the other balloon as it went by. And then on average, it ends up tending to average itself out. So about 100 minutes into the flight, it's about 100,000 feet. And right around there, depending on the conditions of the day, the conditions of that particular balloon, the balloon will burst. Now, if the balloon doesn't burst, or if it gets too far away, there's an automatic system that cuts the balloon away. And the FAA requires us to have that so we can't fly into air traffic. It limits us our travel. But we actually didn't reach that legal point today. We're still inside our legal zone. Even though it's real far away for us, we're inside our legal bubble. And then it starts coming down really fast. You know, it can come up to, if it goes really high, like 120,000 feet, fall about 800 miles an hour over Mach 1. So you have supersonic pillows heading to the ground. There's no re-entry heating, because that's more like Mach 25
I
come in,
see.
but it's still pretty fast.
Uh-huh.
And we have fins on the vehicles
Uh-huh.
to keep the bottom pointed down, and that's the critical part, because if the vehicle spins at all,
Uh-huh.
when it hits the low air, it completely blows apart.
Oh.
And that actually happens on quite a few balloon flights. Not ours,
Uh-huh.
because we have fins and things, but that's a common thing that'll happen. It'll spin and blow apart in the lower atmosphere. But the fins will keep it guided.
Uh-huh.
And then we have a neat thing we do with the parachute. We used to always have to push the button to put the parachute out. And so the guy's always nervous. You push it too late and you're going too fast and it blows off. You do it too soon, it's a vacuum in there at the edge of space. So the parachute just falls down, even though you're going 800 miles an hour below the vehicle. Then it tangles up and then you crash.
Mm.
So what we did, you know, a bicycle basket
Uh-huh.
that just has holes in the bottom like
Sure.
you have in the front?
Yeah.
We have one of those on the vehicle that has holes in the bottom. So as soon as there's enough air to blow the parachute, it just blows it out all by itself at the perfect time every time. So the parachute just knows when to come out from its own air pressure. That happens around 50,000 feet. And then it really slows down. Then it comes down about the same speed as going up, about 20 miles an hour. And then there's foam pads and feet where it'll just come down and touch down.
So how much time elapses between burst and landing in the sand?
About 25 minutes altogether.
25 minutes.
This very fast zoom, and you see on the data, it just dives to the ground. Everybody kind of watches it, a little nervous, and then suddenly it slows down and then catches the wind and drifts to landing.
Great, thanks so much for that detail. If you're just joining us, again, this is SleepBetter.org, Carpenter Company's first ever Pillows in Space adventure out here in the high Nevada desert. We are in Buena Vista Canyon, right?
Valley.
And JP Aerospace calls this area Area Trombone. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Paul, do we have any other questions for John? Again, if anybody has any questions, they can email those to space@sleepbetter.org.
Steve, we do
I wanna
indeed have
reassure,
another question.
If the student recognizes their pong fat here,
Hold on.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Paul. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. John, if you want to continue, he can continue, and then I'll ask the
Go
question.
ahead, John.
I just want to reassure the student that if they recognize this pong hat here, this is C1567, I am about to go and put this right back on the vehicle where I got it from, so it is going to fly.
Oh, that's a good point. Yes, this is an actual pong set that will be going up into the stratosphere here in a few minutes. Okay, so Paul, I'm sorry. Back to you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to ask John.
We do have another question, and John, thank you for that, because there's probably somebody in our viewing audience that wonders if they were not going to get their Pong Sat going. So thank you for reiterating the fact that it is indeed going up. This is a question that came into us via SleepBetter.org, and the question is, can you talk a little bit about, for lack of a better term, the living quarters? What is the physical makeup of where and what the pillow knots are, how they're attached, and what's around them as they blast off and take their trip into space?
Great, I can go ahead and answer that question. The quick answer is that I can answer a portion of it, but then I'll ask John more about the actual vehicle. But the pillows are strapped to the leading edge of one of the vehicles, or both the two vehicles, and then they're strapped with tie wraps. And 5 across barely fits. If you know, the size of the pillow is maybe about this big, and so to give you a frame of reference, strapping the 5, excuse me for a second, lift your hand up. Sorry, I'm just going to do some miking here. Nope, blew it. 5 pillows across on the leading edge of the platform, and it's a triangular platform, and I'll ask John more about the actual weight and the size and the materials used for the vehicles. So what are those vehicles made of, John?
Oh, they're a combination of carbon fiber and foam. There's carbon fiber poles that the basic frame of the diamond shape, and then there's foam decks that are also reinforced with carbon fiber. So the actual structure only weighs 3 pounds. And then the fins have a ripstop Dacron covering them, kind of like an aircraft fabric.
Okay. And they're recoverable, and you reuse them over and over again?
Well, yeah, they're kind of like our Legos and Tinker Toys for space. We take all those parts, and sometimes those same poles make a big truss of an airship. Sometimes they make a high rack for pong sets. Sometimes they make some other structure that's going up. So we just take everything apart and rebuild it as something else and fly it again.
Great. Tell me about the various sciences that are being put into play here. So I guess a lot of physics, right?
Oh, a lot of physics.
Some chemistry, I guess, or
Chemistry
maybe
for the balloon. If they've studied Boyle's law, which they'll probably do in 6th grade, for how much the balloon will expand, that's exactly what we do before the beginning of the mission. A lot of chemistry. We use about 13 different types of glue and all kinds of mixes, combinations to make all these composites and fabrics on there. And then the physics of the climb rate, the descent, and a lot of aerodynamics. It kind of looks like a clunky thing, but anything you're sending Mach 1 through the air, you're balancing it, looking at your CG. If they're doing airplane,
and CG stands for
center of gravity and center of balance. When they do like the model rockets or the airplane studies, they'll have all of that. The vehicle is kind of like a fat arrow, where the fins are on next to the tail, and the bottom is the arrowhead to make sure it always goes down, and it's the opposite on the way up.
So the vehicles today, about how much area is there on the top platform, just roughly?
There's about 6 square feet on each deck.
And then you have missions that you've configured that have much larger areas. Is that correct? What was the biggest vehicle that you've sent up?
The biggest vehicle is 600 feet, or 600 pounds. It's 175 feet long and a little bigger than a 747.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, there's a question from the field here. Oh, it's a mission question. Paul, I'm going to go ahead and send it back to you. I want to get a sense from you if you're seeing the footage from either of the vehicles right now.
We do periodically see the footage, Steve, of the various vehicles. It's a little hard to tell exactly which vehicle is which, but we do, right as we speak, have a really nice view of one of the vehicles. We believe that it is the second vehicle that was launched. So I think we are, from what our people at Mission Control are telling me, we're getting probably a better view or more significant views from the second launch vehicle, as opposed, which I guess would be number 91.
That's correct, a launch 91. Well, that's fantastic. Again, just for programming notes, the first vehicle got caught by the jet stream, and it took it about 40 miles out, almost.
Well, about 60.
About 60 miles away from the launch site, well out of the range of our antennas. Really quite an unusual circumstance, but fortunately we have footage both of the second vehicle, but also importantly, we have rolling footage actually, on the cameras on the vehicle. So later this week, we'll be able to post some of the highlights of that mission.
And right now, you're seeing some spectacular views, Steve, that we at Mission Control are seeing of both inside the vehicle and also a beautiful shot of the cloud cover and so forth. It's pretty dramatic.
Great. Fantastic. That's great. We're glad those images came through.
Are they able to show those?
So, any other questions for John?
Yes, actually, and we do have another one, Steve, if you could relay to John, and I think it's a good one, and that is, what kind of cooperation has to take place to make this kind of a launch take place? In other words, I have to believe, according to the person who wrote this, that there's something more than just going out in the desert and feeling like doing it. Is there a protocol with other agencies, with the government and so forth to get this done?
Several years ago, I had to stop actually having the fun of building the vehicles, and my job now involves getting all the paperwork together for a mission. There is the Bureau of Land Management, which manages all this beautiful desert out here, and they treat it as a pristine wilderness area. So we have a lot of leave no trace rules, and they come out and check to make sure that it looks exactly like we left it. We're coordinating with the FAA in general, that covers in charge of all the air traffic in the country, and then specifically with the air traffic controllers in Reno that cover the air traffic over this area. So all the airliners know they're here, they know the flight times, our windows, and then we have to fly within those windows, and if we're too late or we get some rain, then we simply can't fly because they're counting on us to coordinate. And then also on board we have radar reflectors and things that the aircraft can see us. And then in addition, we also deal with the Washington's, the Office of Commercial Space, for some of our operations. And then on top of that, the logistics of getting all the equipment, all the people, all the things, the balloons, the helium, here all in one place at one time for the liftoff. It sounds like a lot of paperwork, but it's actually a lot of fun, especially when the balloon lifts off.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It was dramatic footage. I think that if you were here and you saw it, it was remarkable. Again, you'll be able to see that footage, some of it later today and actually later this week on SleepBetter.org. I want to also just point out again, thanking Carpenter Company, our sponsor, the world's largest producer of comfort cushioning products, based in Richmond, Virginia, and Mission Control is based out of their showroom currently in New York City near Bryant Park. I had one other thing I wanted to point out. Oh, I wanted to ask you. So last night when they were setting up, I noticed that there were some locals and trucks coming by here. Do you ever get folks around here stopping, saying, "What is going on here?"
Yes, this is a new new launch site for us. We used to fly maybe 60 miles that way off the Black Rock Desert, but there's a lot of people using that area. So we started using this area. We found this about 9 months ago, and we've done this is about a 10th flight liftoff from here. And there's a couple of ranchers up here. And the ranchers will come by in the morning and see the balloons and what the heck are you doing? But they've actually given us a real warm welcome. In fact, there's a rancher coming. We've met him a couple of times because there's only one out that way. But they'll come out and see these big blue lumps on the desert. And then we start telling them about ping pong balls and students flying to space. And they're warm and friendly and just shake their heads and drive away.
Well, just another way that SleepBetter.org is reaching out to the entire country and our mission over the last decade to spread the news about sleep. So this is fantastic. We appreciate it.
Yep. And I'm convinced that, with all the science students, we know in about 20 years someone will go to Mars. And I'm convinced if we were doing all these students, basically the students that are interested have done pong sats, and they're on flights like this one. So on one of the SleepBetter.org pong sats, I'm convinced is one of the first people to put their foot on Mars. Will have participated with us today.
There it is. And if you're out there watching on SleepBetter.org and you are the person that goes to Mars and your interest in science started here, hopefully we'll have that email address, space@sleepbetter.org. Please email us and let us know. And if you do it from Mars. That would be fantastic. So you heard it here. It's possible that our Mars mission astronauts will be associated with the PongSat thing. How many PongSats have gone up?
14,000.
14,000 PongSats.
About 60,000 students have participated.
Fantastic. Okay, Paul, I'm going to send it back to you. Do you have any questions for John, or what's going on in Mission Control?
Well, we're very excited, and we know it's coming toward the end of our broadcast, and we don't want to say goodbye too soon. We're very excited and have really enjoyed the day. And we did just get in another question, which is kind of a technical question as it relates to some of the technology related to actually seeing those wonderful pictures that we're seeing in space. We have an email question about the view we see, and the question is, sometimes you see the letters, the Carpenter letters, and the logo the way you would see it to your eye, and then sometimes you see it backwards, and we were just wondering why that is.
That's a great question. So the question is that the views from space, when it's switching around to the various cameras, as I understand the question, sometimes you can read the type on the logos like you would normally, but then there's a mirror image on one of the cameras. Is that having something to do with the broadcast, or what do we think?
Okay, if it's a mirror image on the camera, we had saw that about 2 years ago once. And there's software programmed into these new cameras that triggers when it gets really, really cold, when it gets below 100 degrees below zero. To prevent that, we've insulated up the cameras really well. But that's the only way that can happen. It's possible that it's flipped that, triggered that software on board.
I understand. So just to clear that up, make sure everyone understands the conditions that the vehicle in this launch, the vehicles get into almost a negative how much?
Negative 100 degrees below zero.
So it gets a negative 100 degrees below zero. Notes, despite all the precautions that one might take and put insulation around it, of course, things happen in these kind of extreme conditions, and we think perhaps that the software on the camera on board did an auto shutdown and then restarted, and it's reversed.
Well, that makes perfect sense, and we were very grateful for that question that came into SleepBetter.org and all the other great questions that have come in today, because, the thing about this is it's the perfect opportunity to raise questions about science. In this country, the more we can get our young people and even us old folk interested in science, I would think, Steve and John, it's probably a good thing for America.
I would agree with that. I'm sure John would as well. Though John can't hear the feed right now. I just wanted to point out that you make a great point that anyone watching or watching the broadcast or hearing about this later, if you don't mind, what we'll do is collect any other questions about this program. We'll forward them to you or talk you through them, and we'll put answers up for the next couple weeks or so.
Oh, that'd be great.
And
that'd be great.
any questions that anybody has, we'll get those answered on sleepbetter.org. We'll also probably post those on Facebook as well. So keep those questions rolling in. Let's get a dialogue going about space. We'll also have the opportunity for our sleepbetter.org experts to talk about the importance of sleep and sleep tips and information for people who are having any trouble sleeping, and critically important for our students as well. So with that, I'd like to say again thanks from Carpenter Company and sleepbetter.org out here in the high Nevada desert in Buena Vista Valley, area Trombone. And I want to send it back to Paul. And we also want to just, before I do that though, I want to just thank all the members of the JP Aerospace team. They're all wearing the JP Aerospace t-shirt with our mission patch. This is the mission patch that everyone out here got. All of our Pillow Not parents have received these. And some of the other folks involved with postcards from Pillow also have received an actual patch, which I have a few right here. They turned out pretty nice. So these wonderful patches with sleepbetter.org and Carpenter Company on them, with our Pillow going up into space on its balloon. So again, thanks from the Nevada desert. I want to thank everybody involved. A special hi to Kristen, Erica, Zoe, and Sky back at home. And thank you very much. We're out from Nevada.
Okay, Steve, thank you very much. And we have to tell you one final thing, and that is we're very jealous of those uniforms. You could send it to us at Mission Control, and we could distribute them as well. But we do want to thank everybody who's been involved in our production today. Today's stream is brought to you by Carpenter Companies, the world's largest producer of comfort cushioning products. Carpenter Company, with the motto, we bring comfort to your life, which is so true. And again, we want to thank everybody, both in Nevada and here in Mission Control in New York, for coverage today of our launch. And as Steve has mentioned, there's a lot of people involved. And if you go periodically to sleepbetter.org, you'll get the most updated information on the launch, and some questions that you have can be answered in that way. So thanks again from both New York and Nevada. Have a great day, and happy Pillow launch. Bye-bye, everyone.